We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Good morning, and welcome to the Friday edition of my show, the Friday Farcast, Far Fridays, far freaky, fun, familiar, fascinating Fridays. I'm Robert Phoenix, I'm your host, and I'll be, I'm not sure how long I'll be here today, to be honest with you, because my guest for today, John Friederlander, one of the best psychics in America, maybe the world, according to Richard Grossinger, had to change his show date till next week. Something came up, so John will be joining us next week along with Constance Demby, who is the godmother of quote-unquote New Age music. And I think you'll get a kick out of Constance. She's really funny and a big personality in a lot of ways, and very, very wise. She'll have some great stories still. She's a very good storyteller. So I'll have Constance on in the first hour and John Friederlander in the second hour. So unfortunately, you're stuck with me today, and I don't know how long I'll go. I'll probably try to go for an hour today, and then next week we're back into the interview swing of things. So there's a few things that I'd like to talk about. I'll start with the personal, and then I'll move out from the personal to the transpersonal. So some of you who follow what I do here, some of you know that I had a job interview on Wednesday. I'd like to talk about that job interview for a moment, if you don't mind. It was one of the most, I would call it traumatic. I would not say it was traumatic. Surreal might be a better term. And what it really speaks to, in a lot of ways, is the disjunction between one person's authenticity and congruency and what we have to do in order to quote unquote be in this world. So I'll break it down for you. All right. So here's the job. The job, first of all, they were not forthcoming with their hours on this gig. They said it was a 30-hour-a-week job. That's what they said. As I got into the 30-minute interview with 3 people, I found out that the job was 16 hours a week at the most, and it was a $9 an hour job plus commission. I'm on the phone for 30 minutes with 3 people for a 16-hour-a-week job that pays $9 an hour, okay? So let's put that into perspective. 30 minutes, 30-plus minutes, 3 people. And I found out that it was a 16-hour-a-week job later in the call. And you know what? I was okay with it to a certain extent because there was a potential to make commissions, like I could sell memberships. I'm pretty good at selling things, believe it or not. And I start off with the interview. So it's at a health club. It's a new health club, not far from where I am. It's actually closer to my kids' school, so I'm thinking, this could be good. This could be convenient. I could supplement what I'm doing here because even with all the props and praise, being a vizier does not pay well in our modern world. I'm sorry to say, but it is not a career path I would recommend to anyone unless you have an undying desire to do what you do at all costs and for little money. In which case, the sky's wide open. Jump right in. So here I am. I'm trying to work out this dynamic because I love what I do. I love getting on this platform and talking with people, even though there's not always talking back, and I'm talking to myself sometimes, or so it seems. I like it. I enjoy it. I bring value to people. I bring value to people's lives. They bring value to my life. Next week, I'll have 2 guests on that you'll really enjoy, and you'll learn something. This is what I do. I have a blog. I love my blog. I enjoy it. I've met so many cool people from my blog, and it feels like something interesting is happening. That there are people that are connecting in ways that are dynamic and multidimensional, and something is going on. There are nodes. There's Les Visible. There's Ellis Taylor. There's me. There's other people. There's people. You go into the chat room right now, and you'll meet some of the coolest people in my chat room, like Janet and Erica and Nudges and Gate 7. Really great people, cool people. Something's happening, and I feel like I'm a part of it. And so I love doing that, and I'll never stop doing this. It is my calling. But it is not an easy place to be in terms of, keeping my lights on and keeping my kid in tennis shoes. So what do I have to do? I've got to do what everybody else does. I'm not, it's like go out and work, go out and find some extra money to come and bring it into the fold. I'm not going to sit here and bitch and complain that I'm not being supported. That's, it'd be great if I was, but, we got to do what we got to do. Right. So with that spirit in mind, I go and I find this job and I think, hey, I can do this job. So I was doing everything. I gave him my resume. And by the way, the resume was the alter ego. I can't really, and maybe this is the challenge here. I can't really I don't know. In the straight world, I'm not sure if they're ready for Robert Phoenix, to be honest with you. They were in the music world, but that's different. I have no idea what the straight world is like now because I have been in this hermetically sealed bubble now for the last 3 years. I've been in the virtual cave. So, I give them the alter ego or the government name, as they say in the hood. So I go down there and I give them my resume. And then I walked in and I followed up, and then I got a call saying, "Hey, we'll talk to you 3:00 on Wednesday." Great. Thinking, hey, this might be workable. I might be able to do this. I might be able to make it all fit. So I get on the phone. I talk with the first person. No, not a bad conversation. Then I get to the second person, and it's like, well, you're overqualified. We're afraid you're overqualified. What do you mean overqualified? I was talking with Erica the other day, or it might have been last hour the other day. She said, wouldn't they want to hire overqualified people? Yeah, of course. Of course they'd want to hire overqualified people. It'd help make their business better. You think you're overqualified. Okay. Well, let me make myself a little smaller so I can underqualify myself so you can freaking hire me. And then I get, the typical inane questions. What's your greatest strength? What's your greatest weakness? Are you kidding me? My greatest strength, my greatest. Are we like in? I felt like I was being interviewed by, like I just got out of high school and I'm working for J.C. Penney. That's what it felt like. And then I get the third guy comes on. I'm thinking, God, is this ever going to end? I mean, this is like a $9 an hour job for 16 hours a week. Is it ever going to end? So he asked me, so Robert, what are your long-term goals? Thinking, are you kidding me? Well, my long-term goals are to survive excess radiation over decades worth of chemtrails, genetically modified foods, super viruses manufactured in laboratories deep beneath the bowels of the earth, World War III, and just about anything else that the psychopath can throw at me so I can raise a moderately healthy kid who can think for himself. That's my long-term goal. And if you can help me get there, great. And if you can't help me get there, then you know what? My long-term goal does not include becoming a leading light in the fitness industry. Okay, if that is the answer you're looking for, of course I didn't say that. I was, and I was like, blah, 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 blah. But really that's what I wanted to say. That's my long-term goal, is to survive. That's my long-term goal. It's my short-term goal too, which is why I'm applying for this job. It's like, I could have just said, all right, here we go. I'm gonna save you a lot of time. I mean, how many interviews do you have with people, right? How many interviews do you have with people? Here's what you're doing. You've got 30-minute interviews, and all three of you are a part of the interviews. Well, just think about how many people you could be going out right now and soliciting sales to bring money into your business, because that's really what you want. You're wasting time by spending 30 minutes with me and everybody else that you're going through this process with. So I'll help you out. Here's my deal. My deal is, you want new customers. I can help you get new customers. I'm good at sales. You want that. Let's make it happen. Let's just completely do away with this ridiculous foreplay that's called an interview and get down to business. Hire me for free for a week, and let me see. And you know what? Bring me in for a week for free and see if I can close some deals. You know what? Let's do that. Let's just cut to the chase around this. You're wasting everybody's time. This is not efficient. Let's just get down and get with it. Come on. The people have to see what it is people have these fictions in their brain. Oh, we have to build a team, and we have to feel good, and we have to determine that the person that we're going to hire is going to listen to us, take direction. It's like, fuck that. What you want is you want more money. And you want to dress it up, and you want to make it look good and feel good, and you want to make it sound like, you're really creating something. What you really want is you want more money, and you want more people. So get real about it, and just, that's what I would have said. Just, let's cut to the chase. Let's get down to it. You want more money? I can help you get more money. I'll work free for a week for free. And if I close some deals, you hire me. Pretty simple. But no, we've got to have this whole song and dance. Anyway, you can tell it went really well, right? Left a really bad taste in my mouth. So that was my interview. Oh, and here's my friends. Not. So that was my interview. Not sure when I'll have another interview with those people. But the quest to continue to provide for my son and myself continues, which includes, of course, writing for my blog and doing this radio show and doing readings. I still don't understand why more people don't get readings with me. To me, it is a mystery. It is a grand mystery. I don't understand it. I have one reading scheduled until next week. I've got a few readings I'm doing for people as favors or trades. I'm doing those, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But it's like, are you kidding me? I mean, people should be. I don't want to use the word should. I am available, and I don't understand why people don't get more readings with me. But that's okay. If the universe is saying that's not happening, I'll go with the flow. And so, I'll go out and do what I have to do. I'm not above it. I've done a lot of things in my lifetime. I've done a lot of jobs. Trust me. I've done it. So that's the personal. That's the personal piece. I had to get it off my chest. Can't believe it. So Cliff High believes that something big is going to happen on 3/2. And I'm actually working on a larger blog piece around that date, the 3/2 date. I'm going to look at the astrology around 3/2. And his languaging seems to he believes that something really big, like a major false flag, is going to happen on 3/2. From the sound, here, I'll read it for you if you haven't read it. I'll read it for you. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it here. Let's see what we got. Here it is. So this is what Cliff High has written on the last HPH. Mainstream media whores burst out truth attack. Shh, it's coming, just a few days away. Prepare your ears now. Get your mind ready. You'll never have heard such words from mainstream media ever before in your life. And it's going to start a flood of such huge proportions that the world will not be the same ever again in the future, and it will change more in each minute than in all the minutes that have ever come before, and you will feel like you just do not have a second to catch your breath, and shouldn't you have gone to work or bed or fed someone or something, but you are paralyzed with the novelty rush pouring out of the pent-up frustrations of decades of pressurized mainstream media whoredom as all hell breaks loose with a single word that a single mind will not be able to contain. No, not that one. Wait for it. Days and temporal markers falling rapidly now, and precursor events spreading rippling influences outward. You'll hear it, then you'll know it. All prior to the breakout is speculation. Afterward, all will be lost in the torrents, hint, hint, of the breaking dam, which is why I thought to just get a few days advance notice for naps and pies. We will need all the energy we have, us old farts, to keep up with the trailing edge, which begins to race away from us by March 19th, with release language compounding beyond our ability to chase. So he's been talking about this, 26 days left. This has been his latest talking points. Now, if you listen to all of that language, it's all very Piscean. It's all very Neptunian. Let's analyze the language. What do we have here? It is going to start a huge flood. Number one. That's one. Let's see what else do we have. Rippling influences outward. That's more Neptunian, Piscean language. Torrents, breaking dam, all Piscean language. So what I'm getting from this is that he is hinting at perhaps the explosion of Hoover Dam. That's what I think he's hinting at. He's not saying it because to say it would be to risk being right or wrong. And Cliff has been wrong before. I like Cliff High. I think he's brilliant. I think he's a great writer. But he's been wrong. He's been very wrong. He's been wrong about the economy a number of times. So I think he's being a little more cautious with his prognostication in terms of the language. But he is hinting at a dam breaking loose. So that would be an interesting and devastating event, the explosion of Hoover Dam, and blaming it on the Iranians or an American terrorist. That would be that'd be big. It'd be really big, be bigger than big. And it would be very Neptunian, very Piscean, very chironic. So I'm going to look at that date, 3/2. That's his date that he's talking about. I'll look at that date, and I'll do something along the astrological lines, and I'll put it up on the post on my site, or as a post on my site. So we've got that going on. We also have a very interesting feud with Henry Makow and Jeff Rense. I don't know how many of you are watching this, but I find it utterly fascinating. I mean, it is. It's. I think on one level, it's pretty sad because, look, I'm not a huge Jeff Rense fan. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not somebody who out and out attacks Jeff Rense, or I'm not aggressive towards him. I haven't done anything on my website to take on Jeff Rense, because I think somewhere in his news feeds, he's got some interesting stories. He links to our buddy Visible, and I'm happy for that. And I have a very strong connection with Visible, and Jeff provides a window onto that world. So, good on Rense for that. But there are people that do not like Jeff Rense. And I'm not talking the enemies of quote-unquote truth. I'm talking people that are, in the truth world. He wound up banning John Kaminsky. And, John Kaminsky is very controversial, extremely controversial. I happen to think John's a brilliant writer, and I think he's a brilliant mind. And I don't always agree with everything John says, but I agree with a lot of it. And Jeff cut him out because John was getting too heavy. John was getting too hot. And he's not the first person that he's done that with. Now it's Henry. And the whole thing around Henry Makow, who's been on this show, by the way, the whole thing with Henry started with an article post that he posted by Jim Stone. And Jim Stone said that Fukushima was caused by a mini nuke and not an earthquake. And Jeff dismissed that as outright fiction. And not only did he dismiss it as outright fiction, he told Henry that he could never post not just another Jim Stone piece, but a third-party piece, any third-party piece. The only thing that Henry could post was Henry stuff. That's the only thing Jeff would allow up. And Henry said, "F you. I'm not gonna bow down to you." And Jeff was complaining about the quality of content that was coming from Henry. And he says this, by the way. This thing is just, they are exchanging body blows on each other's website right now. Fascinating to watch. And Jeff was complaining that the content coming from Henry's site had been, quote unquote, questionable. Have you ever gone to Jeff Rense's site and sorted through some of those links? Some of them are horrible. This woman, Martha Trowbridge, while she has a very interesting premise of Obama being Malcolm X's son, everything else she's written after that is utter garbage. It's terrible. And yet he continues to post her material. I've reached out to Jeff Rense and said, hey, you should link to me. I mean, come on. You know, I do some interesting stuff. Jeff doesn't touch astrology, although he did post an article by Eric Francis once. I did see that. It was Mercury retrograde at election time. But Jeff doesn't deal with astrology. Henry, on the other hand, said I could submit articles anytime to him. He linked to the Costa Concordia piece. I showed him my link. He added it to his. Unlike Jeff Rense, I actually have a relationship with Henry Makow. So Jeff doesn't believe that this nuclear thing happened in Fukushima. Is that a reason to just completely scotch all of Henry's contributors? I don't know. And then it just got ugly. Ugly. So Jeff, obviously could not go it alone. So who did he draft to take on Henry? Anonymous. Big letter to Henry Makow from Anonymous on Jeff's site. It seemed like overkill to me. And why couldn't Jeff just do it? That's an open question. And then Jeff brings in Paul Drockton. And Drockton's, who got to Henry Makow? Somebody got to Henry Makow to have him turn on Jeff. It's unfortunate because, people need as much information as possible. And you can see where, there are definite camps and definite loyalties. Jay Widener chimed in and sent Henry an email, basically said, Henry, you have no idea what you're talking about. I live near Jeff. I know him. A lot of what you're saying is off base, and I'm shocked. One of the things that I don't agree with what Henry did is he brought in Jeff's financial status. I don't think it merited any kind of examination. Henry was calling Jeff's character into question, and Jeff crying poor while accruing over $450,000 a year from rents.com. Look, people can make whatever they want, as far as I'm concerned. If Jeff Rense is making $450,000 a year on rents.com, well, good for him. Henry's justification for outing his finances is that Jeff cries poor, that he's like a revival or televangelist, that he has these fundraising pledges and drives, just like NPR, so that he can keep life. I understand that. I get it. I do my own thing in my own way sometimes. I should probably do more of it, to be honest with you. But I think Henry was off base by attacking Jeff from a financial level. I think it was below the belt in speculation, to be honest with you, on his part. I don't think everything smells right with Jeff Rense. Just doesn't. But on the other hand, show me somebody in the media, in the alternative media, who is really popular and does not have some shades of gray around them. And I'll show you somebody who's either in the grave, in prison, or so far below the radar that they're really immaterial. Jeff has red flags. Sorry, he does. Alex Jones, big red flags. And these are the people, David Icke, red flags. Again, I know people love David Icke. I think David is, is good at what he does, but he's got red flags around. So we have these gatekeepers, these truth tellers, And they all, people say, well, they inspire either flat out devotion or people have questions about them. Now, will I stop going to Jeff Francis' site? No, because I find some things there that are interesting. Not all the time, but I do. Will I stop going to Henry's site? No, because Henry's got interesting articles. Do I agree with everything on their sites? No, I don't. But that's the beauty of the internet. We can go through and we can sift and we can try to make sense of things. But I'm not sure when this feud is going to end. It's gotten very ugly. I would not be surprised if Jeff is hiring lawyers and all that stuff and going after him. The challenge is Henry's in Canada. So we're talking, different laws, different magistrates. I think he's less accessible to be litigated against by Jeff. One man's opinion. So the trial is taking place in the court of public opinion. And everybody's allies are lining up for them. Allies on Jeff's side, allies on Henry's side. The letter from Anonymous I thought was overkill. And at the risk of becoming a target for Anonymous, I'm not a huge fan of Anonymous because they're anonymous. That's why. You don't know who they are. You don't know if they're, CIA or FBI or NSA or, a bunch of guys, wearing turtlenecks and, drinking 3 Red Bulls a day in their parents' basement. I don't know. But I thought it was bullying. I thought it was bullying on the part of Anonymous. One man's opinion. So we've got that going on. That's fascinating. Kind of a fascinating sidelight to all of this. Obama was just in San Francisco last night. He went to dinner in Pacific Heights. And then he had a nice little cozy fundraising dessert at the Masonic Auditorium on California Street. Interesting place to have a fundraising dinner. The Masonic Auditorium is right across from Grace Cathedral, and it is enormous. It is not cozy. It is a big. It's a big auditorium. I saw Caetano Veloso there, Lorena McKenna I've seen there. So I've seen some good music at the Masonic Auditorium. So he was there, and he was touting the recovery of America. That's what he was doing. Touting the recovery of America. Now, the post that I'm working on currently has to do with what I call the red, white, and blue ball washing of America. And if you look at Yahoo News, which is a major gateway news op, you can see trends running through Yahoo News, almost like their program trends. And not just trends, but also talking points. And some of the main talking points that have been coming through Yahoo over the last couple of weeks has been about the recovery of America. And you'll see these headlines. And for a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll be on Yahoo News, or maybe it's MSN or whatever it is, the other version of Yahoo News. I happen to use Yahoo as an email client, so Yahoo News is in my face every time I go to get my email. And what happens is you'll see a picture and you'll see a headline, and it will be, say, let me find one. Here we go. I was working on this morning. Let me see if I can find this. Hold on. Where is it? It is a piece on the recovery of America. Hold on. I'm going to find this in a second here. So I can get this. That's not it. Is this it? No, that's not it. I want to read you the piece. think I might be able to do this. Hold on. Just stick this in my browser. That's not it. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Let me go to Yahoo, and I'll find this. Just give me one sec. I thought I had it punched up, and I could just segue into it. Here we go. Hold on. And it's this whole new phenomena called insourcing. Insourcing. Here's the story. I found it. Not outsource, not even hiring Americans. It's called insourcing. All right, so this is Destination 2012, The Ticket. Zachary Roth is the writer. Can Obama's plan for insourcing help revive U.S. manufacturing? This was a strong headline on Yahoo News. It's just like any other headline, like transvestite tries out for a field goal kicker on junior college team, which is what you'll see on Yahoo News sometimes. I'll read you the story, and then we'll break this down. President Obama toured a master lock. That's an interesting name for a first sentence, isn't it? Master lock factory in Milwaukee on Wednesday to urge manufacturers to return jobs to the United States, part of a wider plan by his administration to increase the number of domestic manufacturing jobs. Right now, we have an excellent opportunity to bring manufacturing back, but we have to seize it, Obama said. The president praised Master Lock during his State of the Union address last month for bringing back to its Milwaukee plant around 100 jobs that previously had been moved to China. Obama calls this insourcing. His administration's push to bring offshore manufacturing jobs back home. In 2011, for the second straight year, the number of manufacturing jobs in the United States increased after declining every year since 1998. Since December 2009, the sector added 300,000 jobs. It added 50,000 last month alone, the biggest monthly increase in a year. In addition to master law, companies like Ford, Honda, General Electric, Caterpillar, and Intel have insourced jobs. More and more companies like Master Law are now insourcing. Why can't they just call it hiring Americans? Why can't they do that? Instead of in-source jobs. You're hiring people that live in the country that these jobs and the companies are located in. Obama added in Wednesday's appearance, here's it. This is it. This is the sentence that everybody needs to pay attention to in this piece. Deciding that if the cost of doing business here isn't too much different than the cost of doing business in places like China, then why wouldn't you rather do it right here in the United States of America? Do you know what that means? That means that the cost of labor and production costs are rising in China. Now, think of where the labor and the production costs were in China 10 years ago. Pretty low. Pretty freaking low, right? I mean, China is moving now to a consumer-oriented economy that is part of their evolutionary arc. They have to. It's part, they can't depend on company or countries that don't have any more money to buy their goods. Really, this is what this is about. You see, we have less money here to spend, which means we're buying less crappy things from China. So what happens now is that the Chinese have to charge more because the hometown discount of buying goods is less applicable. You see, it's a volume game. If there's less volume, they have to charge more for their services. Now, as they charge more for their services, that means their people get to make more money, which means they can now begin to become more like America in like the 1950s and have more shit. But still, those costs are very relative based on where they were, say, 10 years ago. Now think about that for a second. If their costs of doing business were very low 10 years ago, and now the United States is competing with the cost of doing business in China, what does that say about the United States? And now, isn't this just the globalist wet dream? You got the United States, you raise up China, and now you have the United States at a level which is third world-like. I mean, what are these jobs in Milwaukee paying? Probably not much. So here we have really this is not about necessarily bringing jobs home. It's about bringing employment back into the American sector at a deeply discounted rate. And so we have this flat, universal sort of wage across the board globally, decimating the middle class. This is what we're talking about. And so this is why it's happening. This is why this is taking place now. But it's not taking place at a level, say, like for instance, my father was a warehouseman and a foreman for a company called Shackley. This was back in the 1970s. Shackley was located here in California, Hayward, California. And Shackley was a pioneer in supplements and health. My father used to bring home their protein powder. They also did cosmetics. It was an interesting idea for a company. They were clearly ahead of the curve. Clearly. They had vitamin E, and then they were making, we had vitamin E around our house all the time. Vitamin E and protein powder. That was, and Shackley's protein powder tasted awful, by the way. That tells you how far back this goes. Oh, protein wafers. That was another thing they had. But they were here in California. And they were here in Hayward, and they had their manufacturing here in California as well. So I have to deal with one thing right here. So they went from being, my father, okay, I'm sorry, I had to deal with something. My father was making, at that time, right around $15 an hour. This was in the 70s, right? $15 an hour in the 1970s was a lot of money. Think about that. I mean, for some people, $15 an hour now is a lot of money. And think about that. That's even weirder. If you think, but $15 an hour in the 70s, he was a union member, was a living wage. Now, what was happening was that Shackley began to see that the unions had too much pull. And so they moved their company to Oklahoma. And they said to my father, hey, you can move to Oklahoma if you want. If not, you're going to lose your job. Because my father's $15 an hour job in California was a $6 an hour job in Oklahoma. My father said, no thanks. And so here he was part of the production-oriented economy, and then very quickly he got shifted into the service-oriented economy. He got a job cleaning and fixing copy machines. So Shackley lasted a few years in Oklahoma, and then they went offshore. I don't know what they're doing now, but they got into the global game. They had to. They had to. And so, people say we're in a service-oriented economy now. I don't even think we're in a service-oriented economy. We're in a speculative-oriented economy and a survival-oriented economy. It's not about service. I mean, on some level it is, because we're not really creating anything. But it's about survival. Anyway, what's happening is that this is all smoke and mirrors. Smoke and mirrors. And there's no dissenting opinion to this. No dissenting opinion. And then it's like President Obama touts onshoring is made in America back. These are all political talking points, and it's all Neptune and Pisces. They sat down and they said, what do the American people want to hear? Well, let's give them this. And it is unchallenged inside any of this piece. Zachary Roth did not find any opposing points of view. None. And this is happening more and more frequently on Yahoo. Now, if you look at the Baltic Dry Index, which I'm going to be looking at soon, that is the real denominator when it comes to understanding where the economy is. Baltic Dry Index has to do with shipping. It has to do with the containers, shipping containers that are lying around going unused. It's one of the best arbiters of where the economy is. So I'm working on a post right now where I'm going to get into that. But it's really about this Neptunian fog, this Piscean fog now that we're in. And the language that goes along with it. The other part of the Piscean/Neptunian/Chironic fog is what's happening with Syria and Iran. And we're getting a lot of propaganda. Sorry, it's propaganda to go to war. The Israelis are claiming that Iran is perpetrating acts of terror in places like India, Thailand, Indonesia. This is all a pretext for going to war. And it's bullshit. Sorry. It's bullshit. Calling it like it is. It's bullshit. I don't watch Alex Jones very often, but Ed Asner, of all people, was on Alex Jones the other day. And even Ed Asner was calling it for what he was seeing. Bullshit. Ed Asner, okay? This guy is a pillar of the liberal left, buddies with Norman Lear, one of the most dyed-in-the-wool progressive liberals on the planet. And Asner has been right there with him, stride for stride. And he's like going off on Alex Jones about, the threat to Americans with false flags and going to war with Iran. Ed Asner even said we should cut off funding from Israel. And Alex Jones jumped right in. I don't have any problem with Israel. We got to talk about what's going on with these mullahs in Iran. It's like Alex Jones could not wait to get him off that topic. I'm like, wow, Ed Asner said that? That's interesting. When Ed Asner says that we should cut off funding to Israel, that's a big deal. It's a very big deal. But he's indicative of people waking up. Even the Ed Asners of the world can wake up, thank God. But when we get to this point of getting closer to waking up, that's when it gets tricky. That's when it gets really tricky, folks. That's when the old control levers kick in. You don't want to get people too awake now, do they? There's another very interesting piece on Yahoo that I saw today. I don't know why I'm talking about Yahoo so much. Maybe because it bugs me. There's a story. Let's see if I can find it. You know, I bookmarked it. See, I was thinking ahead because I wanted this story. It's a bizarre story. And I'll tell you why it's bizarre, and I'll tell you why it's news. Mountain man scares owners of remote Utah cabins. Salt Lake City. He's eluded authorities for more than 5 years. A mountain man who roams the wilderness of southern Utah, breaking into remote cabins in winter, living in luxury off hot food, alcohol, and coffee before stealing provisions and vanishing into the woods. Investigators have clawed for clues, scouring cabins for fingerprints that match no one, and chasing reports of brief encounters only to come up short, always a step behind the mysterious recluse. They've found abandoned camps, dozens of guns, high-end outdoor gear stolen from the homes and trash strewn around the forest floor. Well, not only is he potentially a bad man, he doesn't care about the environment. But the man authorities say is armed and dangerous and responsible for more than 24 burglaries and has continued to outrun the law across a swath of mountains not far from Zion National Park. Zion National Park. He's roamed across 1,000 square miles of rugged wilderness where snow can pile 10 feet deep in winter. He's not a man. He's a Wolverine, this guy. And while there have been no violent confrontations, detectives say he's a time bomb. Lately, he's been leaving cabins in disarray and riddled with bullets after defacing religious icons. And a recent note left behind in one cabin warned, "Get off my mountain." You wouldn't want to come across that guy, said Iron County Detective Jody Edwards, who's been working on the case since 2007. If Jody Edwards has been working on this case since 2007 and they haven't caught him, I think Jody Edwards needs to be on a different case, by the way. One man's opinion. Theories about his identity have ranged from a 42-year-old man on the FBI's most wanted list, sought for the 2004 killing of an armored truck guard in Phoenix, to a castaway from nearby compounds of the Fundamentalist Church of the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the polygamous sect run by jail leader Warren Jeffs. The FBI recently discounted the theory that the man was their fugitive after authorities got first pictures of him from a motion-triggered surveillance camera outside a cabin showing a sandy-haired man in camouflage on snowshoes, a rifle slung over his shoulder. The photos were captured sometime in December. So you can go to this piece. I'll put it in the chat room. You can check this out. Here's the piece. There we go. Check that out. So here we have a profile of a white guy in camo with a turban kind of looking thing. Sure looks like a terrorist to me. You can look at him in the chat room. We believe that it is not. We believe that is not Jason Derek Brown, FBI Special Agent Manuel Johnson told the Associated Press. However, Edwards isn't so quick to rule out the possibility given the close resemblance to Brown, who was raised Mormon and is highly educated, well-traveled, avid outdoorsman. So while detectives believe they're getting close, buoyed by the recent photos of shadowy survivalist remains an enigma. No person report appears to fit, and fingerprints lifted from cabins have yielded no match. Meanwhile, cabin owners are growing more frightened by the day and are left wondering who might be sleeping in their beds this winter. He's scaring the daylights out of cabin owners. Now everyone's packing guns, said Judd Hendrickson, a 62-year-old mortgage advisor from nearby St. George who keeps a trailer in the area. In November 2010, Bruce Stuckey, another cabin owner, said a burglar broke into his cabin through a narrow window, pried open a gun case with a crowbar, and laid out the weapons, but took none. At a nearby cabin, the man purportedly took only the grips from gun handles. He could stand in the trees and pop you off, and no one would know who killed you, Stuckey said. Some cabins he has left tidy and clean, while others he has practically destroyed, even defecating in one in a pan on the floor. He should know he's being followed. I don't think this guy is normal in any way, said Stuckey, who, like many cabin owners, has a lot of theories. He's anti-religious, waiting for the mothership to come in, Stuckey speculated. Investigators say they have found several of the man's unattended summer camps, what they initially thought were left behind by doomsday believers preparing for some sort of apocalypse because of the remote locations and supplies like weapons, radios, batteries, dehydrated food, and camping gear. Edwards said 2 camps found a few years ago were stocked with 19 guns. One of the camps also had a copy of John Krakauer's Into the Wild, a book about a young man who died after wandering into the Alaskan wilderness to live alone off the land. The cabin burglar has managed to avoid being seen all but twice over the years, each time retreating into the forest. The coffee and alcohol survivalist plays into some cabin owners' assessment that he could be a castaway from the nearby twin towns of Hilldale or Colorado City or even the Utah-Arizona border. The so-called Lost Boys are said to be regularly booted from the polygamous sect there by elders looking to increase their marriage opportunities with young women. Unlike members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which discourages consumption of alcohol and coffee, many of the Mormon fundamentalists imbibe. Detectives aren't sharing their latest assessments, but we've got a lot of leads from the surveillance photos. Edwards said, I would say we're very close to making a positive ID on him. We just got to catch this guy. To cabin owners in southern Utah, he remains a spooky and menacing figure. Here is the kicker, the last line you read in this story, the kicker. We feel like we're being subject to terrorism by this guy. My wife says flat out she's not going back to our trailer until they catch him. We feel like we're being subject to terrorism by this guy. Do you see what this story is doing? The story is, first of all, they get a nice big profile of a guy walking in broad daylight, dressed in camouflage, with a rifle slung over his back. He's not running. He's walking. We got a nice profile of the guy. So we have a white guy, camo, gun, on the loose, and we feel like we are being subject to terrorism by this guy. You see how this works? This is how it's Associated Press story, by the way. Now, let's think about this for a second. Let's just say, for instance, there are satellites all around the planet. And let's just say these satellites can pick up a dime on the ground in extremely high contrast imagery. And they can, by the way, they can do it. They can go anywhere on the planet and zoom in and pick up excruciatingly clear details. Now, if that's the case, and they really wanted to catch this guy, they could do it. Easy. Easy. They just train these satellites on particular areas in the wilderness in Utah, and they could find him. They could find him in a week. It would not be that hard. Trust me on this. But, obviously, it's not that important. They'd rather have him out there roaming around, creating a sense of fear and terror in the psyches and consciousness of people. So when we read these things, and Yahoo News is, it's all it is. It's just a portal, it's all, but you can learn to read through this stuff and figure it out. All right, so so news for you. This is the Yahoo News. Canadians' sexy nun photos spark protests in Spain. Why you shouldn't shoot your daughter's laptop. Man arrested for allegedly cooking and eating cats. Three Nepali sisters crushed with stones, dad arrested. Woman gets into accident while texting live on TV. And of course, there's the insourcing of America and other red, white, and blue ball washing stories. It is time to make America look good with no basis of reality. That's what's going on. And it's going to be one of the foggy talking points in leading up to the election, and likely unchallenged. Okay, so I have gone on and on for the last hour, and I do not know how much longer I can go by myself. An hour is about it. I think an hour is about enough. People can hear me, stand to hear me talk. And go on. Oh, there's my buddy Dell. Hey, Dell, he's listening. Shout outs, compadre. So I'm gonna transition out of here. I'll be back on Monday, and I'll be mashing it up. Maybe I'll do another interview over the weekend, like I did with our new friend Charles Frith. Maybe I'll find somebody to do a little half-an-hour thing with. Wednesday, navigating the astrological matrix, and Friday, John Friedlander and Constance Demby, or Constance Demby and John Friedlander, depending upon. I know Constance would want me to say her name first. She'll be on. You'll get a kick out of her. We'll talk about her music, her life. She'll be on from 10 to 11. John Friedlander from 11 to 12. And, you know, John he does seminars, and he works with people, and he helps them become more psychic, or more tuned to their psychic abilities and gifts. So it'd be worth listening to. All right, I want to thank everybody for dropping in and saying hello and being in the chat room and listening. And by the way, if you do enjoy this media, I urge you to go to my website, robertphoenix.com. There's a small button at the top of the right-hand column that says donate, and I will gladly and gratefully receive your donations so that I can continue to do what I'm doing and share with you people, interviews, content, my thoughts, your thoughts. It's all happening right here, right now, and I'd love to continue to do this and to grow it and to make it even bigger. So anything that you would like to donate would be gratefully and happily received and appreciated. robertphoenix.com. Also, I'm an astrologer. And if you want to make me work for that money, well, please avail yourselves and schedule a reading with me, robertphoenix.com. I've got a variety of readings for a variety of budgets and specific needs, shall we say. And if you have a product that you would like to advertise on my site, I have a new advertiser, by the way, and I don't want to go away without talking about my new advertiser. Let me just put a plug in for the new advertiser because I need to. Just to let you know, in the past 3 weeks, my website has gone up. It has gone from ranked 421,000. You think that that's a lot, but that's the upper 1% of all websites in the United States. It went from 421,000 to 320,000 in 3 weeks. So I've penetrated into the core of the upper 1% of Alexa-rated websites. And the people that listen to the radio show and go to the blog are super smart, super hip, and very selective. But they, just like anybody else, they're looking for interesting things to add value to their lives, whether it's books or supplements or nutrients or DVDs. So if you'd like to advertise on my site, you can reach me at my website, and I can put in a plug for advertisers right here, like I'm about to do now. I have Lawrence Holper, who is he's really into Kangen water and the Enagic water machines. He's taken out 2 ads on my site. And if you don't know about restructured micro water, I urge you to look into it. It's a very interesting thing. Basically, what happens is that there is the Kangen machines will take your water and restructure the water and make it potently pH, which absolutely feeds the body. Now, I don't have a Kangen water machine. I'd like to have one, but I don't have one. Lawrence swears by these things. And I got to say one thing about Lawrence, he's never sick. He's never sick. So he's got to be doing something right. Anyway, you can find out more about Kangen and more about the machines on my website. Big fat header banner on the site takes you to Lawrence's page about water. You can learn more about it. I'll have Lawrence on the show one of these days. He's actually a very engaging guy. We'll talk about water, and we'll slip in something with Kangen, and I'll let you know that it's somebody who's advertising on my show. I'm not going to, or on my website. I'm not going to, try to couch it and make it sound like he's an actual guest, but you'll find him interesting. All right, so that's it. I want to thank everybody again. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to step in what's possible. Let's go out with a little Ari Oakland, shall we? How about a little Wasteland? Here we go. I'll see you on Monday.
The smoke-filled horizon begins to fade. Along gutters littered with the residue of the lives washed away. I hear the subterranean moans of living dead whose ghosts walk on barren streets. Like the welted youth, they bend their head and hang towards the feet. Trudge along, and I wander through the wasteland, and I've seen all those precious lives torn of the lost souls chained by despair. With some twin chariot at their back, they're driven to their labor's care. And as I'm sifting through the ruins of my past and the pain that can't be forgotten, the despair, the busy at work, planting other corpses, desolation's garden, and I'm descending deeper in the dark. And I have wandered through the wasteland, and I've seen all those precious lives torn down. And I was going down in my ground and forced to face the cold, bitter night. Yeah! As the darkness closes in, I know the pale rider's coming for my soul. And struggling through the depth that surrounds, I climb a white ladder onto the scaffold. And watching the empty work of the hollow ghost, I shout, it's not my